Thank you very much. And can I start off with a word of appreciation to Professor Malcolm Chalmers and to Rusi for this timely opportunity to consider the important subject, the security implications of Scottish independence, not potential Scottish independence, but of Scottish independence. The title is indeed a broad one, and it invites us to consider implications from a number of perspectives, and I hope to do justice to that, not just from a Scottish perspective, but also considering the rest of the United Kingdom, the wider region, and the international community. This is the first time that the Scottish National Party, Scotland's governing pro-independence party, has been invited to speak to Rusi, so it is appropriate to put today's topic in context. We are now, as Professor Chalmers rightly said, just under 500 days away from Scotland's historic independence referendum. On the 18th of September 2014, electors in Scotland will be asked the straightforward question, should Scotland be an independent country? I believe that a majority will vote yes, paving the way for discussions between the Scottish and UK governments between 2014 and 2016, which will lead to a sovereign Scottish state with the power to determine its own foreign defence and security policy. That we've come so far is worthy of comment. In my political lifetime, I can recall people saying, there won't ever be a devolved Scottish Parliament. And then there was. I can recall people saying there'd never ever be an SNP government. And then in 2007, there was. I recall people saying that because of the electoral system, there would never be a majority SNP Scottish government. And then in 2011, there was. Even until recently, there were people who said that there wouldn't be a referendum on Scottish independence, and now there will be one. I would observe that many of those doubters are the very same people who are currently saying that there won't be a majority for independence. It's important to underline that the referendum will take place on the basis of agreement between the Scottish Government and the UK Government. First Minister Alex Salmond and Prime Minister David Cameron signed the Edinburgh Agreement in October 2012, where the governments agreed that the referendum should do the following. It should have a clear legal base. It should be legislated for by the Scottish Parliament. It should be conducted so as to command the confidence of parliaments, governments and people. And it should deliver a fair test and a decisive expression of the views of people in Scotland, and a result that everyone will respect. The Edinburgh Agreement also includes a key provision on cooperation. That's paragraph 30, where it stresses that, and I quote, "The United Kingdom and Scottish governments are committed to working together on matters of mutual interest and to the principles of good communication and mutual respect. The two governments have reached this agreement in that spirit. They look forward to a referendum that is legal and fair, producing a decisive and respected outcome. The two governments are committed to continue to work together constructively in the light of the outcome, whatever it is, in the best interests of the people of Scotland and the rest of the United Kingdom." I'd like to read out that last line there, because I think it's critical in terms of understanding what the relationship will be between Scotland and the rest of the United Kingdom. "The two governments are committed to continue to work together constructively in light of the outcome, whatever it is, in the best interests of the people of Scotland and the rest of the United Kingdom." If I can briefly outline the roadmap which follows from the Edinburgh Agreement. The Scottish Government is currently preparing its white paper on independence, otherwise known as a prospectus, which will greatly assist informed debate about what is being proposed ahead of the referendum and the basis under which negotiations would follow an affirmative vote between 2014 and 2016. The incoming Scottish Government in 2016 will conduct a strategic defence review to map out the emerging course of policy. That government would, I hope, be led by the Scottish National Party, but it may not be, which is why I'm delighted to be joined on the panel by such eminent colleagues from other parties. Hopefully we will hear what priorities we might expect from the other political parties. So far, we have yet heard nothing in that regard. For what it is worth, I think there will be significant cross-party agreement after a yes vote. For my part, I want to outline now the priorities of the Scottish National Party in relation to foreign defence and security policy, beyond the objective of the Scottish Parliament and Government being responsible for decision-making. These priorities were agreed at the SNP annual conference last year in what was described as the most significant policy update in 30 years, and followed detailed consultations and fact-finding visits to our neighbours in Northern Europe and further afield. I quote, "An independent Scotland will be an outward-looking nation which is open, fair and tolerant, contributing to peace, justice and equality. By mobilising our assets and the goodwill and recognition that Scotland enjoys in the world, we will provide sustainable access to natural resources to tackle need and prevent insecurity in the world for this and future generations. The SNP reiterates its commitment to non-nuclear defence, international law, the United Nations, and supporting multilateral solutions to regional and global challenges. While conventional military threats to Scotland are low, it is important to maintain appropriate security and defence arrangements and capabilities. This includes a cybersecurity and intelligence infrastructure to deal with new threats and protect key national economic and social infrastructure. Scotland is a maritime nation with more than 11,000 miles of coastline, including nearly 800 islands, critical undersea and offshore infrastructure, and an area of responsibility extending far into the North Sea and Atlantic Ocean. The SNP recognises our national responsibilities as a Northern European nation to work with our neighbours to fulfil current defence and security responsibilities and improve collective regional arrangements. Environmental changes to the high North and Arctic region raise major regional challenges and responsibilities which Scotland shares. Scotland will require military capabilities to fulfil these responsibilities. These will be provided by the Scottish Defence Forces, which will be answerable to the Scottish Government and Scottish Parliament. An independent Scottish Government led by the SNP will commit to an annual defence and security budget of £2.5 billion, an annual increase of more than £500 million on recent UK levels of defence spending in Scotland, but nearly £1 billion less than Scottish taxpayers currently contribute to UK defence spending. The updated policy goes on to address the key area of nuclear weapons and multilateral security arrangements. A long-standing national consensus has existed in Scotland that we should not host nuclear weapons, and a sovereign SNP government will negotiate the speediest, safe transition of the nuclear fleet from Faslane, which will be replaced by conventional naval forces. Security cooperation in our region functions primarily through NATO, which is regarded as the keystone defence organisation by Denmark, Norway, Iceland, and the United Kingdom. The SNP wishes Scotland to fulfil its responsibilities to neighbours and allies. On independence, Scotland will inherit its treaty obligations with NATO. An SNP government will maintain NATO membership, subject to an agreement that Scotland will not host nuclear weapons, and NATO takes all possible steps to bring about nuclear disarmament as required by the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, of which all its members are signatories, and further that NATO continues to respect the right of members to only take part in UN-sanctioned operations. In the absence of such an agreement, Scotland will work with NATO as a member of the Partnership for Peace programme like Sweden, Finland, Austria and Ireland. Scotland will be a full member of the Common Security and Defence Policy of the European Union and the Organisation for Cooperation and Security in Europe. Given these commitments and further details in the policy on capabilities basing defence industry procurement, and with a repeated stress on cooperation, how should we understand the title of today's talk, The Security Implications of Scottish Independence in the broader sense, and looking into the decades ahead, not just issues of, is this a good thing now, is this a bad thing? How does it look when considering the decades ahead? For Scotland, foreign defence and security policy will always be determined in line with the priorities of the Scottish Government, the Scottish Parliament, and the Scottish electorate, in contrast to today. We will have the opportunity to maintain the optimal defence forces, protecting our military infrastructure and traditions. Our most important partner will be the rest of the United Kingdom, based on mutual respect and the opportunity for closest conventional defence and security cooperation. Scotland will strongly focus on domestic and regional security obligations, as well as the ability to contribute to the international community. For the rest of the United Kingdom, I believe that Scotland will be a key neighbour and ally. Given the strategic considerations of living on the same island, it will be in the interest of the Westminster Government to ensure the best possible relationships, and that includes military coordination, planning, training, intelligence and procurement. Whitehall will expect that Scotland is adequately managing security matters in northern Britain. For the wider region, neighbouring nations such as Denmark, Norway and Iceland will want a sovereign Scotland to take our collective challenges seriously and be a reliable and capable partner. This will include key joint maritime and air patrolling responsibilities within a NATO context. Closer defence and security cooperation includes NORDEFCO, which aims to strengthen member countries' defence capabilities by identifying areas for cooperation and to promote effective solutions. There's a European Union dimension in this area, which includes the Nordic battle group. For treaty organisations such as NATO and the European Union, will Scotland be a proactive and positive partner? Absolutely. We regularly hear from the UK government about the valuable role played by nations such as Norway and Denmark. These are, of course, countries who share the same perspectives as majority Scottish public opinion on nuclear weapons. Will Scotland be a trusted strategic partner fulfilling its responsibilities just as other conventionally armed member states do? Yes, it will. In a wider security sense, what can and will Scotland offer? Scotland is well placed to support the United Nations and EU peacekeeping operations. There's a tremendous scalable research and development potential relating to cybersecurity, and there's also an ambition to become a key hosting area for peace and reconciliation. It's in the interests of Scotland, and it's in the interests of the rest of the United Kingdom to take the security dimension seriously now, which is why it's irresponsible for the UK government to refuse technical discussions ahead of the referendum with the Scottish government. It's also misguided for the UK Ministry of Defence to increasingly refuse to answer parliamentary questions, which would be beneficial to the process of understanding ahead of the 2014 vote. I note that Prime Minister David Cameron wants discussions about a reformed European Union with Brussels before holding an in-out EU referendum. The security implications of Scottish independence are important domestically, including all of the home nations, and internationally. It's my view that it is right for national governments, national parliaments, and national electorates to determine their foreign, defence and security priorities. I look forward to Scotland being able to do this shortly. And I conclude by thanking RUSI for hosting today's event and look forward to hearing from the contribution of my fellow panellists and questions from the audience. Thank you very much.